Excited this morning to be with Dr. Lee Ramsey, who is the chair and professor of let's start that again. How would I word that, Lee?
Why don't you just call me the professor of pastoral care and preaching? How about that?
Pastoral theology and homiletics.
That's the deal.
All right, can we go now, Willie?
We are ready. I'm rolling.
We're excited this morning to be with Dr. Lee Ramsey, who is the professor of pastoral theology and homiletics here at Memphis Theological Seminary, and he's also the author of a very well-received book called Preachers, Misfits, Prophets, and Thieves, which is on Westminster John Knox. And we're really wanting to talk about the notion of Southern. Here we are in Memphis, Tennessee, about what 4 houses up from where Shelby Foote lived.
Yeah.
And the class that you teach that along with the homiletics and the pastoral care class, which was one of my favorite classes when I was here.
Thank you.
Could we talk a little bit from your perspective, Lee, about how not only Southern literature, of course, which is where we are here in Memphis, but how from the perspective of theology and arts, how literature gives another window into faith and sort of roots it in story, in narrative, sort of from a narrative theology perspective.
Yeah. I've always been drawn to the intersection between theology and literature. An old English major myself, I never really got it washed out of my system. And here at my ripe old age, I finally gave myself permission to reconnect this deep love of literature and of storytelling, particularly growing up in the South in a storytelling culture, but connect my love of both faith, theology, the religious life with the best of storytelling. And, both of them are, can be viewed as ways of taking us to the deepest part of what it means to be a human being. Of course, if we speak religiously, the deepest part of what it means to be a human being in relationship to God. And while not all the writers that I talk about in Preachers and Misfits, Prophets and Thieves would classify themselves, I don't think they want to, I don't think they need to be classified as religious writers, because they are writing stories that tell us more, show us more about what it means to be a human being than they are getting close to the deepest religious impulse to, which is, what does it mean to be created? What does it mean to live? What does it mean to die? And to be in relationship with one another. So I find when I use fiction in the classroom or in writing or in talking with churches, I love to get out and do that. That the literature becomes like a window or a mirror, either one, for people to be able to see themselves more deeply and to be able to, cast some light on their relationship with God as well. So the classes that I teach where I'm able to use short stories, and I do that a lot. I first started using only in this class that was built around this book. So I would teach this one class, and we're going to spend the whole semester reading fiction and talking about it from various pastoral care or preaching points of view. Now I'm finding I want to use it more and more in other classes as well. So a class on grief and loss, I'll bring in some short stories that deal with grief and loss. And students, film is a lot more accessible to them. Stories that they're going to have to read require a little more of themselves, just because we're not quite as literate of a culture as we might like to be anymore. And so it causes them to dig a little bit deeper and to really go into the imaginative world of the writer. And the dividends are huge. I mean, it pays off when students really get engaged with it. So.
That's great. And to sort of leapfrog over into the pastoral care, and what you're talking about is this notion of narrative and storytelling. And I know you found in your experience, and I found in mine as well as in pastoral care, is that one thing that really sort of catalyzes relationship is when you can share a narrative, and when you can find out where someone is grieving or mourning or going through trials and tribulations. You can narrate your own story and see where they sky bridge. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. One of the classes we were reading, it's sort of a little regional novel from a Georgia writer, since I'm a Georgian, and gravitated towards this book. It's called Dairy Queen Days. It's by Robert Inman, and it features this 45-year-old Harley motorcycle riding United Methodist minister who's in midlife crisis, and he loves to hang out at the Dairy Queen, and his girth shows it. So it's called, and he is funny. He is aware of the institution of the church and all of its warts. He's critical, self-critical as well as critical of the church, and he's trying in the midst of his own crisis to raise this 16-year-old son, who is really, one of gets a lot of the fallout of his dad's confusion about his own vocational uncertainty and so forth. And but one of the students fell in love with this motorcycle riding Methodist, and he didn't want the novel to end. And what I realized as the student talked about it was this novel, like the best novels do or stories do, was telling part of this student's story.
Wow.
And he said, he finished the novel and we were talking about its impact on us. We went around the room and he said, this guy's from North Alabama, right? He said, life gets pretty lonely over there in North Alabama. And I said, yeah, I bet it does. And he said, I wish I had a Joe Pike Mosley who I could meet at the Dairy Queen and talk to.
That's strong, isn't it?
And I looked at the guy, I said, you do. I said,
Oh,
you
wow.
do. Here's your book.
That's strong.
So yeah, absolutely. In the best of the stories, our own personal chapters in our life, the key moments, and the unique people who help and shape and form us meet these same kind of characters in the story.
Yeah.
And,
That's
they take us for a ride.
And there's a frisson there.
They take us for a ride.
Yeah, literally in that book.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I'm sure everyone's seeing that what a special place Memphis Theological Seminary is, and it's for folks like Dr. Ramsey, and you get such a variety, and you realize once you're here that when you come here, your life is transformed, even as professors, and
Absolutely.
It's right here in Midtown Memphis, where this is a very creative place, in a very creative place. So, Dr. Ramsey, thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's been a
John.
pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate you very much.